You know, there is no amount of sensation that I can put into the title that will change the outcome of this video. One of these devices straight up curb stomped the other one. But I figure it would still be a good video to make for those of y'all out there considering which one of these devices will best fit your need. Stay tuned to the video. What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech, captain of Team Apple, baby. Back again for the video. And if you're new here, I help you better understand and connect with the technology around you. So if that's something that you're interested in, do all the YouTube things, but most importantly, go down there, hit that like button, and hit that subscribe button, because who else is cutting your tech videos like a WWE promo? Nobody like the man about tech. So yeah, in one hand, we have the iPad Mini 6 right here, which I have in this little folio thingy. Let me unfold it so y'all can see it is the real deal. I just did a video about this the other day. And in the other hand here, I got this iPad, M1 iPad Pro, which I'm using to use as an external monitor to record this video. So we got to put that back over there and it's placed on the Magic Keyboard. But listen, not even beating around the bush here. The M1 iPad Pro curb stomps this iPad Mini all over the iPad playground. But let's get into it anyway. So you are talking about a device that starts at $500 versus the device, the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro, which starts at $1,100. So of course, it's gonna curb stomp the iPad Mini. Also, the iPad Mini comes in at 8.3 inches as opposed to the 12.9 inches of the M1 iPad Pro I just alluded to. The iPad Mini has a pair of stereo speakers. The M1 iPad Pro has 4 speakers for a booming sound system, which I'll demonstrate later in the video. It is definitely legit. One of the biggest differences, though, between the M1 iPad Pro and the iPad Mini 6 is the fact that the M1 iPad Pro has a liquid Retina XDR display with mini LED technology on board, and the iPad Mini has an LCD display. Viper, what does this mean? What it means is that one device, the iPad Mini, comes in at a paltry 500 nits of brightness, while the other device, the iPad Pro, comes in at 1,000 nits of brightness. Wow! Woohoo! It might blind you if you look too close. It's that bright. Other subtle differences between the two. Obviously, with the iPad Mini 6, you get Touch ID integrated into the power button, as opposed to the iPad Pro, which has Face ID on board with that true depth camera system. So that's definitely legit. Real quick, let's talk about things that both of these devices have in common. Number one, they both have both Wi-Fi and 5G variants of the device. So no matter which one you want to get, whether you want one with cellular connectivity or you want a Wi-Fi only model, you have both variants on deck. They both support the Apple Pencil 2. So if you need that drawing, or if you're like me and you want to create those crispy YouTube thumbnails, Apple Pencil support for both iPads on deck. Also, they both charge via USB Type-C. But with the M1 iPad Pro, its USB Type-C port is a Thunderbolt port, which means it supports speeds up to 40 gigabits per second for data transfers. Oh my goodness. So if you got large file sizes and you want to move them quick from like iPad to an external hard drive, move towards the iPad Pro, because it is 8 times faster as far as data transfer speeds than the iPad Mini. Thunderbolt is the way to go always. Now that we got that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the differences between devices. And oh boy, there's a few differences we need to cover in the video. First off the list, obviously the M1 iPad Pro, no matter which one you get, the 11-inch or the 12.9-inch, they all have bigger batteries than the iPad Mini, which means your battery life is going to be greatly improved getting an iPad Pro over the iPad Mini. Also, the iPad Pros have more RAM than the iPad Mini. Depending on which storage configuration of iPad Pro you get, you're either getting 8 gigabytes of RAM or you're getting 16 gigabytes of RAM. The iPad Mini supports 6 gigabytes of RAM, which means if you are trying to be a productivity beast, you're trying to get a lot of work done, different things like that, probably want to go towards a device whose name implies iPad Pro. Also, the iPad Pro supports the Apple Magic Keyboard. Unfortunately, the iPad Mini does not. That Apple Magic Keyboard literally turns the iPad Pro into an almost laptop hybrid device. It is amazing. I've talked about it before, but the Apple Magic Keyboard completely transforms the way you use your iPad Pro. So if you want to have a laptop-like experience on your iPad Pro with that Magic Keyboard, then that's just something that you cannot get on an iPad mini Go Pro. So earlier, I was highlighting the differences in display between the iPad Pro and the iPad mini. I forgot to mention that the iPad Pro display supports 120 Hz ProMotion, which means you get smoother scrolling on the iPad Pro as opposed to the iPad mini. Also, the iPad Pros do not have that jelly scrolling issue, which I alluded to in my last video, that the iPad mini seems to have for whatever reason. So if you want a smoother scrolling experience with no jelly effect, Pro all the way. Now, for the 5 of y'all out there who actually use your iPad to take pictures, you want to look at the iPad Pro, because the iPad Pro has a dual lens camera system. It has a wide angle lens and an ultra wide angle lens, and it also has a LiDAR sensor on the back, which really doesn't come into play with the photography. But the more important thing to know here is that if you want to take portrait mode shots, you can do that with one of the iPad Pros, but only on the front camera. For whatever reason, even though they have a LiDAR sensor on the back, you cannot take portrait mode shots with the rear camera on the iPad Pro. But remember what I said about the iPad mini. You can't take portrait mode on any of those cameras on the iPad mini. Both of the cameras on the mini and the iPad Pro support center stage, which means, again, it tracks your movements, whether you're in a FaceTime call, Zoom call, different things like that. The camera will literally track your movements in real time. So both of those have support for center stage. One of the cool things about the iPad mini, though, that you will not find with the iPad Pro is that the iPad mini comes in 4 different colors. So if you want to have those sweet colors of the Apple rainbow, definitely take a look at the iPad mini. Now, for me personally, I like using my iPad mini because it's very portable. As I alluded to in my last video, it literally fits in your pocket. What is that about? That is awesome. So that's cool. I like using it in my bedroom, in the kitchen. I just like how easy it is to pick up and go and not lug around, unlike my iPad Pro, which is like big and clunky and not very portable. The iPad mini portability makes it a unique device. I love using it for reading, again, with how light it is, and the small form factor that you get with the iPad mini definitely makes it more susceptible for reading sessions and different things like that. Also, you can do other things with the iPad mini, like draw on it with the Apple Pencil. You can listen to, watch videos, listen to podcasts, different things like that. Although some of that stuff I prefer doing on the bigger iPad just because it has the better speaker system. So when it comes to media consumption, I'm rocking with my bigger iPad.
This kind of feels like a little New Year's update video, basically, because we know the second half of the year in this tech world is product focused. There's so many things that come out. I mean, you guys know about Techtober, but we're always so in the thick of it about covering and sharing all. Also,
I tried to really make my YouTube thumbnails on my iPad mini, but I felt like it was too small. I guess because I was so used to doing them on my bigger iPad Pro. For whatever reason, I prefer the bigger iPad for drawing and doing thumbnails. I guess the larger camera just makes it easier for me to make my YouTube thumbnails and use the Apple Pencil. Now, some of y'all might prefer a smaller canvas for making your drawings and different things like that. That is a personal preference. Mine is the bigger iPad Pro. Ultimately, this comes down to personal preference and wallet size. I mean, literally, we are talking about a $600 difference between the starting price for the iPad mini and the starting price for my 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Now, even though there's a stark price gap, there is a lot of different hardware functionality that you get with the iPad Pro that simply you will not find on an iPad mini. But what the iPad Pro can't touch is the iPad mini form factor and the portability and the things that allow for it much more versatile and accessible than the iPad Pro because of its small form factor. But Vibe Nation, let me know, do you have an M1 iPad Pro, whether it be the 11-inch or the 12.9-inch? Or are you rocking with an iPad mini? What has your experience been? Drop me a comment, let me know. Also, as I alluded to earlier, I did do a video review of my iPad mini. If you want to go check that out, bam, video right there, and come back for more.